Yo, so we're going to jump into the documentary really soon. I just gotta give some context that this is actually a history project that I made for class. You know that I'm still in high school right now. I filmed this in spring break. I procrastinated it for literally 4 months. 2 days before it was due. I basically sat down 2 days in a row, non-stop editing. I have never made a documentary before, so this is a start for me. So please critique it. Please let me know what you guys think in terms of filmmaking, story, all of that. But yeah, please sit back, relax, and enjoy the documentary.
My God, Tom looks about 10 years younger than I. When my mother and father got married, they went to live on Tryon Street. My dad had just returned from the First World War. I started getting other jobs at school. They offered me a post office job one Christmas. Oh, did I hate that. Oh.
Letters from home. Each day, millions of them are sent to American servicemen fighting on distant battlefronts. In this one laboratory, over 300,000 letters a day are handled.
All the soldiers and sailors and airmen who went away overseas and fighting, the ones who fought the First World War. So it seemed there was always war talked about, and there wasn't a lot of prosperity.
Wherever you are, you must come back safe to me. Is that quite clear?
Quite clear.
I met Tom when I was going to go into my last year of high school. My cousin Marion, she got me a job in the Sugar Bowl, and I got to be known as the Sugar Bowl lady. I went over there, and we had the shipyards used to have a coffee break, and when they came in, they would just crowd in.
Men of the shipyards are now working day and night in an intensive war effort. It was the work of men such as these that defeated the Spanish Armada.
And there were only 2 cafes across the street from the shipyard. And so when these guys came in, it was just like a whole flock of geese arriving. Tom came in and I met him. His friend was a short little guy and Tom was a big guy. And the little short guy said, "Why don't you ask Audrey out?" There was another guy there. He was enamored with my cousin. Well, he had asked me out because my cousin didn't want to go out with him. So now I've got 2 guys waiting for me. This is kind of funny. And when it's time to go home, well, they're going to walk me home, that's all.
How old are you anyway?
18.
18? Why, it was only last year you were 17.
Too young or too old?
Oh, no. Just right. Your age fits you.
Walk up in that dark road behind the shipyard right by the sea. And there's these 2 guys both waiting for me. What would you have done? So Tom then, my husband, spoke up and says, "Take me now or I'm walking away." So I went home with Tom.
Extra, extra, read all about it. Me and that playboy in trouble again. Extra, extra.
I was in grade 12, planning to go to be a teacher. Went home one day. My mother says to me, "Tom's going to go to Calgary for his call. He's been called up." I mean, you had to go. If you didn't go, they were going to put you in the army anyway.
Everywhere the men were borrowed or taken for keeps. The youngest, the cleanest, the best.
What could I say? All my friends at school, one of the guys at school had already been shot down on a plane in high school. They had this Air Force cadet, and these guys went over, and next we knew, we heard he died. And so when they said Tom's going to the Navy, I thought, that's good. More hope he might be able to swim away. I was still in high school. Tom's away now in Calgary. And I come home from school this next day. There's my Uncle George standing in the front room with Mother in his arms, crying her heart out. My dad has died of kidney problems. So right away then, that changed our whole life. Well, I'll tell you quite honestly, it was dreadful because now we're finishing school, getting a job. I ended up very fortunately getting a job at the Bank of Commerce. Women got jobs easily, whereas before the war it was a little harder. When I first worked as a bank teller, the guy that I replaced, he was making $2,000 a year, and they gave me $1,000. And in the beer parlors, in those days, the beer parlors were women on one side, men on the other. If you and Emma went into the liquor store, you could go to her side and sit with her, but she could not go to your side and sit with you.
Most men would have a hard time of it if they were to change jobs with wife, mother, or girlfriend. The homemaker walks miles every day, from sink to icebox, from cupboard to stove, and from kitchen to dining table.
So it did affect everybody. You can't say it didn't affect me. We used to go dancing at the YMCA to dance with the servicemen. We volunteered our services, so to speak. Only dancing. The tea was definitely, and coffee were rationed, and people really suffered.
This coffee is criminal.
Honey!
But the rationing really didn't bother us. My mother was very clever about her cakes. I mean, if it called for milk and she ran out of milk, she just put water, and no one noticed the difference. It's true.
I wrote you every day for a year.
Tom was not a really big letter writer. He did not like writing letters, and when he would finally pressed himself to do it, he'd write one to his mother and one to me the same day, and he probably tells the same thing. I used to just write tell him about the family. I always visited his mother every week, 2 buses in the ferry to visit her and have tea, and then I'd come home and I'd write to Tom and tell his mother. And Tom was signing up to go over to land on D-Day.
The weather was none too good, but the little ships plugged on manfully to the beaches, bringing enormous support in manpower and weapons.
I was sort of crying the blues, and all of a sudden we heard this extra out the door, and I went out in my pajamas, and there was the paper, and there's Tom's picture. There were about 6 guys that had made a difference, they said, in D-Day. He got leave, so he said, "Did we want to get married?" I said, "Oh, sure." You know, everything was so casual. I've heard people say, "I don't want to talk about the war. If you're going to talk about the war, I'm going to go and sit with those guys." Tom wasn't like that. You have a baby, someone gets married, someone dies, life goes on, and you just learn to live with it. And if you let it get you down, then you're in trouble. You've got to look to the bright side.
That old black magic has me in its spell. That old black magic that you weave so well. Those icy fingers up and down my spine.